Now, Lee Reaney is the editor of the news magazine Lviv Today, and he joins me live on the line from Lviv. Appreciate you coming on, Lee. The obvious thing to talk about, of course, is the supply by the US of cluster munitions. And I'm just curious, why in particular do you think President Zelenskyy requested cluster bombs as opposed to some other kind of weaponry?
Well, the key point here is that the type of ammunition that they need is not being supplied. It's not in stock as much as Ukraine is going through it, as quickly as Ukraine is going through it. So these munitions are just a replacement for the ammunition that they actually need, which will take a few months to produce. So the U.S. is low on that ammunition. They're still building factories in places like the Czech Republic in order to provide those types of munitions. So these cluster munitions are to be used in Ukraine, on Ukrainian land, in particular to clear the entrenched Russian defense lines in the occupied territory. They will be used within Ukrainian lands. And so the key thing here is how do Ukrainians feel about using these types of munitions? I mean, these are known for lasting for years after their use. But I think that most Ukrainians feel that in those regions, many of them are mined. 30% of that area already is mined and will take decades to demine. And so using some cluster munitions in an effort to continue the counteroffensive, I think is the reason why Zelenskyy requested those weapons. And I think that Ukrainians are well aware of the type of cleanup that is going to be necessary after this war ends. And so I don't think that the cluster munitions really bother Ukrainians as much as maybe some other countries.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I mean, it's a remarkable thing to think that the people of the country understand and are still willing to accept that kind of long-term problem to try and deal with the more immediate challenges that they face. But it seems that perhaps some politicians from other countries are still looking at it in a short-term view, you know, with an ethical view, because you've got the UK, you've got Canada and Spain. You can see they're thinking of this as an ethical issue. They're thinking about public safety. Do you think that ultimately, though, they're going to understand and be on board with Zelenskyy's thinking?
Well, I mean, cluster munitions have been used in this war almost from day one. Russia used them in Mariupol very early on. They've used them in several other areas here. So to allow one side, the stronger military, to use these types of munitions and deny them from your ally, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't see where the complaints are coming from. Additionally, most often when these types of munitions are used in foreign countries. They're used against an enemy in their territory. Ukraine is using them against an enemy on their own territory. So it's a choice that they need to make. They're the ones that will have to clean up after the war. And so if this is something that Zelenskyy wants, then I think that it's something that the allies need to listen to.
I know this is a difficult question to answer, but and the media, I suppose, set the tone to a large extent as to what kind of the mood of the nation is. But I just wonder, you know, more than 500 days into this conflict now, and I'm sure nobody ever dreamed it was going to, in the worst nightmare, it was going to carry on for this long. There doesn't seem still to be any end in sight. I just wonder how people are feeling about it in Ukraine, as it must be quite a depressing kind of situation to be in, not knowing when they might have their country liberated.
Well, there's still incredible confidence here, but the level of hatred towards Russia and towards Russians, it continues to grow every day. You know, every region gets hit by these ballistic missile strikes every week, sometimes every day, killing civilians just in their homes, in bed, 2 o'clock in the morning, and just you have these incredible explosions that rock the entire center, take out buildings, take out sports clubs and universities, and it drives people mad. And so they're very angry. It's an angry nation, but at the same time, they're fully convinced in their victory. They're fully convinced that they will retrieve all of the occupied lands. They're a little bit disappointed that it doesn't look like Ukraine will go for Crimea this year, but they have faith that they will recapture Crimea as well. So as long as they stay together, and at this point in time, it seems like there's nothing to suggest that they would not. I think they're just waiting for Russia to crumble from the inside.
Lee, really good to talk to you, and I really appreciate your insights. That's Lee Reaney, my guest, editor of the news magazine Lviv Today.